Hello, dear listener, and welcome to this gentle evening journey where the candlelight of imagination flickers softly, inviting you to settle beneath warm blankets while we wander back through centuries to explore the hushed lives unfolding within the stone walls of a medieval monastery. Tonight, our narrative unfolds in measured, tranquil steps, mirroring the bell marked hours that once guided monks from dawn prayers to midnight vigils. So let your breathing slow with theirs as we pass quietly through timbered doors into cloisters fragrant with beeswax and incense. Across the next heartbeats, we shall linger among echoing corridors, luminous gardens, the scriptorium's patient scratches of quill on parchment, and the silent vows that wove each task into timeless devotion, revealing how ordinary days became shimmering threads in the vast tapestry of European faith. Our tale begins on a crisp spring morning when mist still blankets a secluded river valley, and the monastery's sturdy walls rise like a placid island of carved limestone, their coursed blocks silvered by dew and centuries of whispered psalms carried on the wind. Travelers approaching along the rutted cart track first glimpse the soaring bell tower, silent sentinel against the sky, its crossing of wood and iron awaiting the first peal that will ripple across orchards, vineyards, and grazing sheep to announce the sacred rhythm of day. As dawn's palest rose spreads over tiled roofs, a novice assigned to ring the bells pulls the thick hemp rope muscles, straining with reverent purpose, and the resonant bronze voice awakens sparrows, kitchen hearths, and drowsy brothers alike to the summons of matins. Inside, narrow windows filter cool shafts of light onto chapter house benches where hooded figures gather, each adjusting coarse, undyed woolen habits, their leather belt knots a quiet reminder of obedience, stability, and conversion of life. The three vows, anchoring every word and breath. Matins itself unfolds in measured cadence, antiphons intoned in minor modes, psalms recited antiphonally, and a brief homily from the abbot whose calm baritone resonates beneath vaulted rafters, guiding hearts toward dawn's promise, while wax tapers hiss and droplets solidify along candlesticks. After prayers, brothers file past the stone lavabo, dipping calloused fingers into chill water, tracing the sign of the cross before wiping hands on linen towels, enacting bodily purification that complements the inner cleansing sought during nocturnal meditation. The refectory soon stirs, though not yet for food. A lector mounts the wooden pulpit and continues yesterday's reading from Augustine, enriching appetites of mind, while kitchen helpers slice coarse bread and measure beans, mindful that silence must reign even amid clattering earthenware. Work assignments are announced in crisp Latin, some brothers to the citron orchards, others to the masonry sheds, a few lucky scribes to the scriptorium, whose high windows promise both light and the chance to craft words that might outlive their own whispered prayers. Those destined for the fields shoulder iron-shod spades and trudge across dew-laden grass, the rhythm of their boots softened by lark song. They will tend flax, winnow barley, and mend drainage ditches, each task woven seamlessly into contemplation, for labor itself is liturgy. Meanwhile, the cloister garth blooms with violets and thyme, a green quadrangle, framed by arcades where brothers pace in silent meditation, their footsteps tracing ancient flagstones, polished by generations, while sparrows scavenge crumbs from yesterday's collations, beneath carved capitals of vine and winged lion. At the heart of monastic identity lies the rule of Saint Benedict, copied onto vellum and chained near the chapter lectern. Its 73 chapters prescribe humility, balance, and ceaseless conversion, shaping everything from bedtime to how many cups of wine accompany supper. Within this rule, the vow of poverty forbids personal possessions beyond the habit and perhaps a cherished psalter. Yet the monastery itself may own orchards, mills, and libraries, a paradox resolved by understanding property as common stewardship dedicated to divine service. Obedience, the second vow, manifests in the quiet nod when the abbot assigns tasks, be they menial or scholarly, reminding every monk that yielding the will, like iron into a forge, allows reshaping into a more compassionate instrument of providence. Stability, the third vow, ties each soul to this particular community and place, ensuring that faith deepens like roots of the ancient walnut shading the scriptorium roof, resisting the wanderlust that once lured errant preachers along dusty pilgrimage routes. When a hopeful novice arrives, he undergoes a year of testing, donning a gray scapular to distinguish him from professed brothers, practicing humility through sweeping corridors and memorizing psalms, while two senior mentors discern whether zeal is genuine or merely youthful fervor. Tonsure Day crowns his probation. Beneath the chapter house oculus, the abbot trims a circular patch of hair, leaving a ring symbolic of Christ's crown and cosmic harmony, and the newly professed kneels, reciting the formula that binds his life to prayer and community. The dormitory is a long timbered hall where straw-filled mattresses lie shoulder to shoulder. Before entering at night, monks remove boots, murmur a brief confession, and slip under rough wool blankets, trusting the silence to cradle their dreams until the midnight bell. Meals occur in the refectory beneath a painted crucifix. Benches flank massive oak tables, and while a server ladles turnip stew, conversation remains absent, replaced by the lector's steady voice, recounting chronicles of martyrs, turning nourishment into another channel for contemplation. Because flesh was taboo for most days, protein came from beans, cheese, and occasional fish. During Lent, the fare thinned further to water-soaked oats and thin leek broth, yet gratitude infused every spoonful, for scarcity honed awareness of divine generosity. Beyond cloister walls stretches the physic garden, neatly ordered beds of sage, rue, and horehound, cultivated by the infirmary, who mixes decoctions to soothe fevers, staunch bleeding, or calm sleepless novices whose minds churn with homes left behind. Nearby, an apiary thrums with honeybees. Their golden harvest sweetens gruel, polishes wood, and feeds the waxworks where candles are poured, because clear light, free from smoky tallow, is essential for illuminating both manuscripts and midnight vigils. In a shaded corner stands the brewhouse, its copper kettles venting aromatic steam as brothers stir barley mash. Ale, safer than water, accompanies supper and offers humble cheer, while vegetable peelings feed pigs, destined for rare feast day exceptions to abstinence. Cheese aging racks line the cool undercroft wheels, turned daily to prevent mold. Speaking of patient attention, this dairy craft funds manuscript purchases. For wealthy patrons, exchange coin for creamy rounds, wrapped in linen and sealed with the Abbey S stamped beeswax emblem. Now we glide into the scriptorium, a high chamber where sunlight slants across leaded panes onto orderly desks. Each workstation holds an inkhorn pumice, and a sharpened goose quill, while silence is broken only by page turning and the faint rasp of penknife. Before writing, a scribe prays a short formula, asking divine clarity. He then rules faint lines on the vellum with a stylus and counts them twice, knowing a single crooked margin could brand the entire folio unworthy of binding. Pigments are ground in small mortars, lapis into celestial blue, malachite into leafy green, red lead for rubrication. The illuminator mixes them with egg white, and when gilding, breathes gently upon clay bowl to moisten it before laying the whisper-thin gold leaf. Margins bloom with whimsical creatures, dragons chasing hares, monks riding snails, playful reminders that humor survives, even in solemn text. And these images, though seemingly fanciful, often veil moral lessons about vigilance, humility, or the perils of spiritual sloth. The library, adjoining the scriptorium, smells of oak and parchment, chain-bound volumes of Augustine Boethius, and sometimes Aristotle, occupy lecterns, while a carefully locked cupboard guards the monastery's rarest treasure, a gilded gospel reportedly rescued from Viking raiders a century earlier. When weather turns foul, fieldwork pauses, and brothers gather to copy secular treatises on medicine, astronomy, or geometry, believing that understanding creation's order deepens reverence for its maker, thus intertwining scholarship with devotion. But even precious texts risk calamity. One winter's eve, a lamp overturns igniting straw under a desk. Immediate bell ringing alerts the community, and a human chain passes leather buckets from the cistern until flames surrender and vows of vigilance grow sterner. Hospitality forms another pillar. A guest house near the gate receives weary pilgrims, merchants, or envoys of distant princes. A porter greets each traveler with the words, "Christ is among us," and offers water to wash dusty feet before providing bread, cheese, and straw bedding. Pilgrims bring tales of crusader triumphs, Moorish science, and strange spices. Monks listen attentively, gleaning useful knowledge, yet guarding their hearts against pride, remembering Benedict's counsel to treat every stranger as Christ disguised beneath tattered traveling cloak. At dawn, the almoner distributes alms, bread heels, soup, sometimes coin, to the poor who queue near the outer wall. Their grateful whispers rise like incense, reminding cloistered hearts of the world's unending sorrows and the call to active mercy. Inside the infirmary, herbal infusions steam over a brazier. Elder Brother Matthew composes syrups of licorice, and fennel tends bandaged limbs and records symptoms in a vellum ledger, slowly creating one of medieval Europe's earliest systematic compendia of rural ailments. When plague rumors reach the gate, quarantine protocols sharpen. Visitors wait in an outer courtyard for screening, and lepers, though barred entry, receive meals through a turntable hatch, along with prayers penned on tiny slips, trusting God to bridge physical walls. The rhythm of the divine office is unyielding. Prime, terce, sext, nun, vespers, compline. Each office interlaces scripture, chant, and bowed heads, weaving the hours into a continuous tapestry that sanctifies both honeycomb cleaning and theological disputation. Gregorian chant, rising from stone choirs, employs modal cadences that drift upward like incense. The harmonic simplicity steadies minds, allowing even a drowsy lay sister folding linens to feel the quiet sea swell of sacred sound gently rolling through ancient arches. Seasonal feasts punctuate the austere routine. On Easter Eve, the Paschal fire flares in the courtyard, sparks mirrored in tearful eyes as the Exulte resounds. On Christmas pine boughs, garnish pillars, and novices reenact the Nativity using carved wooden figures. Conversely, Lent descends with purple veils over statues, diet restricted to vegetables and pulses, and an hour extra of scriptural reading in unheated cloisters for emptiness, stomach and soul, creates spacious interiors wherein new tenderness and sharpened gratitude might quietly bloom overnight. Harvest season summons every able hand. Grape clusters fill wicker baskets, wheat sheaves topple beneath sickles, and cider presses churn. The cellarer oversees accounts, ensuring barn lofts brim before winter's frost seals fields under brittle starlight. Storms sometimes batter the cloister roofs. Thunder reverberates through corridors, and monks gather in the church to chant Psalm 29, invoking the Lord over the waters while novices secure shutters and pray for the scriptorium windows to hold against driving hail. Economic survival depends on more than prayer. The monastery operates a water-powered mill on the nearby stream, grinding villagers' grain for a modest fee, its rhythmic wheel turning night and day. A living psalm sung in creak and splash. Wool from monastery sheep becomes undyed cloth that traveling merchants carry to distant fairs. Prophets purchase pigments and rare vellum, illustrating how mundane trade sustains heavenly art, an earthly spiritual symbiosis embodied in every illuminated initial. Occasionally, political winds gust. A local baron disputes boundary stones and withholds rent. The abbot drafts a measured letter citing royal charters, then dispatches two articulate brothers to negotiate, their calm demeanor often melting tempers that swords would sharpen. Kings, too, take notice. A royal charter arrives, wax seal unbroken, confirming tax exemptions in gratitude for prayers offered during a recent campaign, reminding the community that unseen intercessions in candlelit chapels can influence armored riders far beyond cloister gates. Not all conflicts resolve peacefully. Once, armed men stormed the granary, seizing grain during a famine. Though monks did not resist with arms, they later petitioned the bishop, who condemned the act and compelled restitution, illustrating the slow but steady weight of ecclesiastical justice. Evenings after Vespers, a rare recreation hour, allows chess, gentle wood carving, or reading aloud of moral tales. Laughter, though muted ripples beneath arches, for Benedict insisted occasional cheer, refreshes zeal more effectively than constant austerity, and prevents the spirit from drying out. Compline closes the public day. Oil lamps cast amber pools across the church floor. Chant softens to whispers, and the antiphon "Save us, O Lord, while waking" seems to stroke eyelids heavy with fatigue, ushering souls toward the great silence. From Compline until matins, conversation is forbidden. Only the night watch circulates cloaked against chill, carrying a lantern to check for smoldering embers or wandering thoughts, while the sky beyond leaded glass unfurls constellations like jeweled manuscripts of divine authorship. Within that hush, some monks retreat to private prayer cells, clutching wooden paternosters, contemplating mortality, or perhaps confessing doubts to the darkness, seeking the still small voice that might slip through cracked shutters. With the scent of wet cedar, dreams here feel more vivid. A scribe envisions illuminated letters sprouting wings. A gardener sees Christ walking among cabbages. At dawn, they share these visions with the confessor, who gently discerns whether comfort or caution hides within the imagery. Life's fragility becomes clear when an elder, Brother Elias, collapses in the cloister, tremors stilling only after the sacrament of unction. His brothers gather around, chanting Psalm 23, while bees hum beyond the arches, escorting his spirit like musical incense. At burial, the community processes to the cemetery orchard spades, cutting into earth, fragrant with apple roots. The abbot scatters a handful of soil over the shrouded body and reminds all that, remember you are dust, applies to illuminated pages as well as flesh. In the chapter house afterward, stories of Brother Elias surface, his patient calligraphy, his fondness for acorns fed to passing pigs, his secret stash of bright autumn leaves pressed between psalms, turning grief into gratitude, and teaching novices how memory can gild sorrow. Seasons continue their unhurried dance. Petals drift into cloisters of each spring. Midsummer sun warms sandstone until it smells faintly of baking bread. Autumn russet creeps across the ivy, and winter fog muffles bells so thoroughly that chant sounds like distant surf. Across decades, manuscripts leave bundled in wool to universities, their margins bearing evidence of chilly scriptorium gusts, ink blots resembling stars. Scholars far away praise the monks whose names seldom appear, yet whose silent artistry shapes European thought. Centuries later, reform movements, royal whims, and wars will dissolve many monasteries. Roofs will sag, libraries scatter, and swallows will nest where psalms once soared. Yet the illuminated gospel, rescued from raiders, may still glow in museum glass, guardianship transferred, but purpose enduring. Thus, the legacy of quiet devotion persists, threaded through gardens, chants, and gilded letters, reminding modern hearts that patient, mindful labor, whether tending bees or balancing budgets, can sanctify time and tether restless minds to calm rhythms of being. And so, dear listener, we gently step back through the gateway, the porter's lantern fading behind. Our slippers touch present day floors, yet echoes of bells and quills still linger, encouraging your own breath to settle into the serene cadence of monastic hours. Allow the distant cloister to dissolve into darkness while its lessons remain. That silence can nourish creativity, ritual anchors wandering thoughts, and humble tasks repeated with love forge shining artifacts of patience, even amid scarcity. As your eyes close, imagine a single candle still burning upon a scriptorium desk, its flame unwavering, illuminating an unfinished capital letter that waits, like tomorrow's dawn, for your dreams to supply colors no pigment jar contains. Feel gratitude for honeyed sunlight, for ink's subtle scent, for the hush between chanted notes, and trust that, like the monastery, your nights can harbor gentle disciplines that cradle worries until they melt into fragrant wax and quiet parchment. Release each passing thought as monks relinquished possessions, watching it drift beyond cloister walls with the wind, and welcome the soft stillness where even distant worries bow to the tranquil governance of a bell you alone may hear. Beneath that inner silence, sense the turning wheel of the watermill, ceaseless yet unhurried, its splash reminding you that life's current supports rather than sweeps away, guiding dreams downstream toward fertile fields of dawn. If restlessness rises like a thunderstorm, recall the community gathering to chant psalms against lightning, and picture your breath as their shared harmony, steadying the tempest until only gentle rain of release patters across your thoughts. Let the aroma of herbal gardens drift through imagination, lavender, chamomile, a hint of fennel, steeping into the pillow of your mind, coaxing muscles to loosen as though midday sun warmed stone benches beneath your weary spine. Visualize illuminated margins where playful rabbits chase across pages. Allow such whimsy to soften the stern voice of self-judgment, for even solemn monks cherished laughter hidden in gilded scrolls, teaching that joy and reverence intertwine. Finally, picture the night watchman extinguishing lanterns and whispering the ancient blessing, "May the angels guard you," his footsteps fading as the great silence descends, wrapping both monastery and your own bedroom in the same dark velvet. Breathe steadily, knowing that beyond the horizon, a bronze bell waits to welcome tomorrow. Yet for now, time pauses, hovering like motes in lantern light, granting permission to surrender consciousness to the benevolent dark. Trust that while you sleep, unseen scribes continue, copying peaceful lines upon the vellum of your heart. Each breath a fresh stroke, each heartbeat a dot of bright gold leaf, preserving hope for morning. And when dawn finally gilds your windowsill, may you awaken refreshed, bearing within you a quiet echo of monastic calm, ready to greet the day with attentive kindness, the true illuminated manuscript that only you can write. Good night, dear traveler of history and dreams. May the serenity of medieval cloisters accompany you through star-lit corridors of rest until morning bells call gently and you rise radiant, like a newly opened page awaiting graceful script. Hello, gentle wanderer of dreams. Tonight we unfurl silken maps and follow young Marco Polo as he steps from the Venetian lagoon into a vast shimmering tapestry of deserts, mountains, and cities stitched together by merchants, caravans, and distant whispers of the great Khan's court. Imagine the year 1271, dawn glowing over San Lorenzo Key, as Marco, barely 17, boards a sturdy galley beside his father Niccolo and Uncle Maffeo, their minds alight with rumors of wealth and wonders beyond the Levant, where spices perfume the air and myths walk unmasked. The Adriatic recedes, replaced by Aegean blues, and the bustling docks of Acre, gateway to the east, where Frankish, Arab, and Mongol tongues mingle, like spices in a brazier, teaching Marco that the Silk Road is less a path than a chorus of overlapping stories. From Acre, the party rides inland with Templar escorts to Ayas, a Cilician port buzzing with Armenian traders, and there they secure seats on a sturdy cog bound for Hormuz, carrying bolts of Venetian velvet intended as diplomatic gifts for Kublai Khan. The Persian Gulf voyage brings shimmering heat, flying fish, and tales of pirates. Marco learns to read constellations above a deck creaking under pepper sacks, sensing that the night sky itself is a thread guiding merchants through centuries of silent trade. Hormuz rises from mirages, its domed warehouses stacked with pearls, Indian cotton, and frankincense. Here, the Polos contemplate sailing directly to China, yet storms and worm-eaten hulls persuade them instead to trek overland across Persia's desolate interior. They acquire Bactrian camels with padded feet soft as slippers and hire a guide fluent in Farsi and Mongolian. Caravan bells chime like distant churches as they enter the scorched Lut Desert, where midday heat warps horizons and salt flats glisten like broken mirrors. Nights in the desert are lit by meteors that streak across ink-black heavens. Around a dung-fueled fire, Kurdish guards recount jinn haunting sandstorms, while Marco scribbles observations on scorpion burrows and the haunting, flute-like call of wind through desiccated canyons. In Kerman, famed for turquoise mines and indigo looms, Marco marvels at mosaic domes shimmering like peacock feathers. He studies master dyers who coax impossible blues from crushed stones, then notes how camel caravans converge here, exchanging Kashmiri shawls for Baghdad glassware. Kerman's governor grants the Polos safe conduct letters bearing the Yarlai, seal of Hulagu Khan's successors, vital passports promising Mongol protection across hostile steppes. Yet every mud brick caravanserai they reach still locks gates tightly against bandits after sunset. Crossing the highlands toward Yazd, they skirt Zoroastrian fire temples where eternal flames dance behind bronze grills. Marco learns that this faith venerates truth and light, doctrines older than Rome, and he records the priests' white robes fluttering like snowy banners in desert wind. In Yazd's bazaars, Marco tastes rosewater-soaked almond pastries and hears Sufi poets chant verses that seem to hover above reality. He realizes commerce and mysticism share the same spice-laden air, each transaction a prayer, each poem a contract with wonder. Eastward stretches the Dasht-e-Kavir, a salt desert, where camel hooves crunch crusty pans and hidden quicksands can swallow entire caravans. Guides test the ground with metal rods, while Marco composes careful notes on mirages shaped like phantom lakes rimmed by palms. Months later, they reach Balkh, once cradle of Zoroaster and now scarred by Mongol conquest. Shattered stupas stand beside new caravan compounds, illustrating how empires rise, fall, and are repurposed like reused bricks in a wall that still shelters weary traders. Along the Oxus River, winter ice gleams beneath pale suns. The Polos hire river boats carved from poplar to avoid mountain passes choked with snow, and Marco records fishermen using trained cormorants, a practice he will later compare to Chinese river traditions. Spring draws them north into the Pamirs, roof of the world, where passes climb above cloud seas. Thin air makes every breath precious, and prayer flags snap against turquoise skies, sending fluttering mantras across glaciers that feed rivers threading half of Asia. Marco notes that at heights above 15,000 feet, fire will not burn brightly, water boils too soon, and travelers grow lightheaded. He observes how yaks, unlike camels, endure frost, and how mountain ibex cut switchback trails more reliable than worn silk maps. Snowstorms drive them into a stone shelter maintained by Buddhist monks, its walls adorned with faded murals of bodhisattvas sharing yak butter tea. The Polos learn mantras for safe passage, and Marco compares these chants to Latin hymns echoing through Venetian cathedrals. Descending to Kashgar, they enter a city where Turkic songs drift from grape arbors and merchants, bargain over jade, felt rugs, and saffron. Marco marvels at its double walls and circular towers, proof that silk wealth attracts both traders and warlords like moths to flame. Kashgar's imam invites them to a courtyard illuminated by oil lamps. Discussion ranges from mathematics to falconry, revealing intellectual crossroads where Confucian analects are quoted beside Quranic verses. convincing Marco that knowledge travels faster than caravans. Beyond Kashgar, the caravan veers south along the Taklamakan's fringe, choosing the southern oasis chain of Yarkand, Khotan, and Nia. Old guides warn, enter its sands and you come out a story. And Marco notices bleached bones, marking places where stories ended abruptly. At Yarkand, fields of cotton and pomegranate soothe weary eyes. Marco studies irrigation channels older than Venice, concluding that desert agriculture is an art of persuasion, coaxing green life from reluctant earth like a patient merchant extracting profit from stubborn markets. Khotan dazzles with its fabled white jade riverbeds. Miners sift glacial silt by moonlight, believing the stones glow softly when soaked. Marco purchases a small pebble for his diary pouch, intending it as proof that myths sometimes solidify into smooth, cool reality. In Nia, buried by sand for centuries, local farmers unearth wooden tablets inscribed in scripts no one reads. Marco sketches, characters, and imagines lost kingdoms swallowed like ships in a storm, a premonition of how time will one day obscure even the Mongol Empire. Reaching Dunhuang at the edge of Chinese dominions, they rest in a grotto packed with Buddhist scrolls, murals, and giant statues. Candlelight flickers over paintings of celestial musicians, and Marco senses his quest shifting from trade to questing after human imagination itself. A Taoist sage in Dunhuang gifts Marco a silk talisman painted with 8 trigrams, advising harmony with shifting winds. He explains that deserts test resilience, mountains test humility, and courts test patience, lessons Marco will revisit while debating etiquette among Mongol princes. The Gobi Desert now lies before them, a gravel plain where sky meets earth. Without boundary, water skins are wrapped in felt to reduce evaporation. And every night, dirk-speaking guards forge low walls of baggage to deter prowling wolves from tasting Venetian leather. Starlight in the Gobi appears unnervingly close. Marco notes constellations unfamiliar to Mediterranean sailors, mapping his own wonder against heavens that seem to widen with every mile, teaching him that geography is mirrored inside the skull as expanding capacity for awe. A sudden sandstorm blots midday sun, grained stinging skin like wasps. The caravan forms a huddle of beasts and men, heads down, while led camels wear wooden nose shields. Marco feels fear, yet also fascination, realizing that peril sharpens perception like a whetstone on steel. Emerging from dust, they find 2 camels missing and a water cask torn. Rationing begins, and the polos learn to moisten tongues with wet pebbles, a trick from Uyghur drovers who claim thirst can be fooled if mouth and mind strike a wary truce. Weeks later, the northern wall of Shangdu appears, summer capital of Kublai Khan, carved palisades gleaming beneath green tiles. Halos of smoke from yakdung hearths drift above pleasure pavilions, promising rest, yet entry requires presenting golden passport tablets earned through prior diplomatic service. At Shangdu's marble gate, Mongol guards inspect the polos, Yarlai, its tamga stamped in vermilion ink. Satisfied, they escort the Venetians through orchards where peacocks roam into a palace whose bamboo ceilings whisper, and where every doorway smells of jasmine and cedar. Marco's first audience with Kublai Khan occurs in a throne room, cooled by fountains. He bows 3 times, presenting Venetian glass vials that shimmer like captured dawn. The Khan, intrigued, quizzes him on Roman roads, Mediterranean tides, and the nature of papal authority. Impressed by Marco's curiosity and command of languages gained en route, Kublai appoints him special envoy, tasking him to inspect provinces and report with honest clarity. Thus begins a second, longer journey deeper into Cathay, this time under imperial banners. Riding south along the Grand Canal, Marco marvels at engineering feats, stone locks raising grain junks like floating pews, barges drawn by water buffalo across wetlands teeming with lotus. He records precise figures of boat crews, towpaths, and tax checkpoints in Hangzhou, city of heaven. He wanders causeways, shimmering with lanterns. Tea houses float on stilts above West Lake, and silk workshops hum like beehives. Marco writes that its population surpasses any European city, and its night markets glow brighter than Venetian carnival. He studies paper money printed with black ink seals. Merchants accept it as readily as silver, a concept astonishing to a man raised where coins clink. Marco predicts paper currency could lighten caravan loads by replacing sacks of copper ducats with folded promise. Appointed to Yunnan, he journeys across jungles where elephants haul timber and Taoist hermits brew medicines from moon-faced fungi. Marco notes gold mines, but also malarial swamps whose mists claim porters, teaching him that wealth often nests beside misery like twin fledglings. In the kingdom of Mian, now Myanmar, he describes gilded temples adorned with lion-headed statues. He attends an audience where the king's throne rests on sculpted chickens, symbolizing vigilance. The blending of humor and grandeur fascinates Marco, who jots architectural measurements beside cultural anecdotes. Return trips to court involve navigating monsoon floods. Bamboo rafts carrying lacquerware sway over swollen rivers alive with crocodiles. Marco realizes that water, like desert sand, can both enable and threaten trade, a reminder of nature's neutral stance toward human ambition. Years pass, and the Polos long for Venice. Kublai, reluctant to lose his favored foreigners, finally consents, assigning them to escort a Mongol princess to Persia for marriage, thus granting them safe conduct and a fleet of 14 ocean-going junks. These junks, fitted with watertight bulkheads, sail from Guangzhou across the South China Sea. Skirting pirates near Champa, storms toss dragon prow ships like toys. But iron bark masts hold firm, demonstrating Chinese naval ingenuity unknown on Mediterranean carracks. Stops at Sumatra expose Marco to kingdoms of pepper and clove. He notes orangutans described by locals as forest men with human eyes. Yet malaria delays the convoy for months, and dozens succumb, including senior Persian envoys, reducing the princess's entourage. Crossing the Indian Ocean, they encounter pods of dolphins cresting phosphorescent waves. A Tamil pilot teaches celestial navigation using the Southern Cross, and Marco scribbles new star charts expanding his mental atlas to include hemispheres invisible from San Marcos Campanile. They dock at Hormuz after 18 exhausting months. The Mongol princess, though grieving lost companions, thanks the Polos for unwavering guardianship. Persian satraps shower the Venetians with pearls and rugs, but Marco's mind already drifts toward home horizons. Overland once more, they trace earlier footsteps through Baghdad's domes, now partly rebuilt after Mongol sack. Marco marvels at scholars debating Aristotle in newly reopened madrasas, proof that cities, like phoenixes, rise from ashes shaped by memory and hope. At Trebizond on the Black Sea, Genoese merchants gossip about shifting alliances. The Polos trade silk for silver bars, securing funds for the final leg. Storms whip the Pontus, yet their galley surges toward Constantinople, minarets piercing dawn like quills ready for fresh parchment. Byzantium's mosaics glint under candlelight. Marco compares them with Dunhuang murals, recognizing shared reverence expressed in gold tesserae and lapis swirls. Artistic cousins, separated by deserts, yet united by yearning to render the ineffable in mineral brilliance. Arriving in Venice, after 24 years, they are unrecognized, their clothes foreign and speech peppered with Mongol idioms. Relatives, fearing scam artists, barricade doors until the Polos open silk purses, spilling rubies, sapphires, and jade tablets onto worn thresholds. Venice listens, enthralled as Marco recounts black stones that burn like wood, coal, paper money, porcelain so translucent candles shine through, and cities with 10,000 bridges. Skeptics dub him Il Milione, hinting his tales number a million lies, yet harbor secret fascination. Marco compiles his experiences with the help of Rusticello da Pisa in a Genoese prison after a naval skirmish. Their book, filled with meticulous observations, will inspire cartographers, sea captains, and dreamers long after spices fade from cloth and ink dims on parchment. Some scholars criticize omissions and exaggerations, yet modern archaeology vindicates many details. Ruined palaces in Xanadu, salt mines in Yunnan, jade pits in Khotan. Marco's record becomes a mosaic, each tessera flawed yet essential for envisioning medieval Eurasia's shimmering whole. His journey reveals that the Silk Road is less about silk than the braided flow of ideas, technologies, and tolerance. Across its length, mosques, monasteries, and temples stand like beads on a string, proving faiths can coexist when commerce and curiosity outrank conquest. Marco's observations of paper, gunpowder, and compass will seep into European workshops, sparking innovations that reshape oceans and empires, unseen yet profound. His notebooks function like seeds blown far from parent trees, germinating centuries later in shipyards and scholars' desks. Perils endured, bandits, storms, malaria, court intrigue, underscore that discovery costs blood and patience. Yet Marco's calm resilience demonstrates how wonder can outweigh fear and how recording reality with truthful eyes is itself a noble form of courage. The Silk Road eventually wanes under Ottoman blockades and rising maritime trade, but its ghost lingers in spices on dinner tables, Persian words in Italian vocabularies, and the pinch of curiosity nudging travelers to ask what lies beyond familiar horizons. Marco dies in 1324, insisting on his deathbed, "I have not told half of what I saw," leaving the tantalizing notion that even his sweeping chronicle is merely a lantern shining on one section of an endless corridor. Today, satellite images trace caravan tracks still visible across Xinjiang sands, and modern railways echo the rhythm of camel bells, suggesting paths once furrowed by Polo's feet now guide fiber optic cables pulsing with digital silks of information. In quiet moments, imagine Marco's diary page fluttering in desert wind, words carrying hints of rosewater, yak butter, tea, and sea spray. Let those aromas coax your thoughts along moonlit dunes toward starlit courts, where the Khan listens again to a foreign youth's awe. Allow desert silence to envelop you like a silk cloak. Feel the soft crunch of salt pans, the steady hum of camel breath, and the flicker of torches illuminating mud brick walls. Sights Marco knew, now gently unfolding in the theater of your resting mind. Think of Kashgar's pomegranates bursting with ruby seeds, their sweet tang mingling with lute music drifting over caravanserai rooftops. Savor that image and sense your own heartbeat aligning with the camel's measured gait through soft night. Picture Shangdu's perfumed gardens where white peonies glow under moonlight, and feel the delicate rustle of silk sleeves, a sound softer than sighs, lulling you toward tranquil dreams where landscapes shift like painted scrolls, unrolling without haste. Let Hangzhou's lantern-lit canals glide under arched stone bridges, water lanterns reflecting constellations, creating the illusion of sky within rivers. Imagine drifting there, your thoughts afloat like paper boats, bearing quiet wishes toward koi-guarded depths. Hear distant bells of Buddhist temples in Yunnan mingling with jungle cicadas. Each chime is a gentle reminder that journeys inward mirror journeys across continents, and peace often reveals itself at unexpected clearings along tangled paths. Recall the Gobi's endless night vault, meteors tracing silver scars across velvet darkness. Trust that those fleeting lights carry prayers from long gone caravans, offering safe passage through the uncharted deserts of your own slumber. Sense the ocean swell beneath Chinese junks, their canvas wings billowing as monsoon winds cradle hulls. Permit that rocking motion to guide your breathing into slow tides, releasing tension like ropes easing from cleats at departure. Imagine Persian rose gardens where nightingales compose liquid songs over moonlit fountains. Let that melody seep into muscles, loosening knots until your body feels as still as water cupped in onyx basins. Envision the marble mosaics of San Marco absorbing sunrise, gold tesserae sparkling like captured dawn. Acknowledge that journeys sometimes end where they began, yet the traveler returns changed, carrying inner continents stitched within memory's map. As eyelids grow heavy, accept Marco's final lesson that the world's vastness can comfort rather than overwhelm, because every horizon hides another story eager to meet you. just as each breath hides another dream awaiting discovery. Drift now along your own silk road of sleep, guided by caravan bells fading into hush until morning. Sun paints fresh roots across your mind's parchment, inviting you to wake renewed, ready to trade doubt for wonder once more.